Hola chicos, Professor Street aquí con un repaso para examen número uno. Let's try this again. I did this video once from my office today and it did not save. So it is the nature of the technology. But anyway, I'm excited to share with you a little, some information about the exam, what to expect, and also what to study and review and go over some of the things that we've been covering in the videos already. So let's begin. So just FYI, these tests that you're going to take on Blackboard through Lockdown Browser are basically comprehension tests, right? Basically checking the way you've been processing the input, right? We're not necessarily focusing on output just yet. We are at the very beginning stages of beginning Spanish, so we just want to take in input, and then eventually we will get to speaking and writing and that sort of stuff. So you can look forward to seeing some multiple choice and some matching. Of course, any sort of thing where you have several options to choose from and you choose the correct answer. So when you approach the test, remember you must use Lockdown Browser. That's very important. You can't access the test without using Lockdown Browser. And then you'll check on the actual assignment, which this would be Examen número uno, right? And also there's some audio comprehension things on the test as well. And for these, you're able to listen multiple times. Don't try to understand every word, right? Just kind of let it flow over you. If you stop to try to process every word, you're going to get lost. Read the question, right? Read the question, make sure you understand the question, and also read the available answers, right? Use all of the background contextual information you can to help you arrive at the best answer, right? So listen for specific words. If you see words in the answer, right, that correspond with the question, etc., just use your best common sense to get to the answer, right? That's how listening works. You slowly are able to understand more and more. But if you try to just get the big picture, you should be okay for this first exam. So speaking of the exam, it's going to cover Lección Preliminar and Capítulo 1, right? So all three pasos de Capítulo 1 and Lección Preliminar, right? So I'm going to show you, there's a bunch of page numbers associated with this, but I'm doing this video a little bit different. Instead of a PowerPoint, I'm going to be speaking directly using the book as a reference. So instead of focusing on page numbers, I'm going to show you how to access this material in very easy ways using the ebook on MindTap, right? So if you launch the ebook, you can make it full screen, you can make it partial screen, whatever's easier for you. But in this top left corner, we're just going to start going through the material, right? So Lección Preliminar is parte de hola, right? That's the first thing, right? So if you remember from the very beginning, we're going to look at how to introduce yourselves, right? So remember, this is basic stuff, right? Hola, ¿cómo te llamas? Me llamo Nico. ¿Y tú? Me llamo Lucia, right? So basically, me llamo means I call myself, right? A lot of what we see in beginning level Spanish is students that will say, me llamo is, thinking llamo means name, and we need another verb, but that's not true, right? So there's three different ways we can say what our name is. Me llamo is not one of them under any circumstances, right? So it's me llamo Matthew. Mi nombre es Matthew. Yo soy Matthew. Never ever will it be me llamo es Matthew, right? That's combining me llamo Matthew with mi nombre es Matthew, right? So try to work to remember that because that's super important and it will save you some problems as you go forward, right? So basic introduction, me llamo, blah, blah, blah. So we go back to hola, right? Lección Preliminar. And then spell, right? This is something we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on. I linked a YouTube video because it's just the alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Say these things aloud. Always say things aloud. It's going to help you exponentially develop your Spanish skills. No matter what your goal is for the class, if you're able to say things aloud, it's going to help you tremendously more. Trust me on this. This is 100% fact, right? So go through the alphabet. You can practice. You can do some of these practice activities. But remember, we go back to hola, right? And then we just keep working through this. How to greet someone. I did a video on this, right? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, y tú, right? So remember, this would be for familiar, amigos, people that you know, people your own age. In more official or formal settings, you want to always lead with usted. ¿Cómo está usted? Right? So they both mean you. One's formal, one's informal. Like in English, especially in the South, we say sir, ma'am, Mr., Mrs., etc. This would be the equivalent of está usted, right? So if you're not sure, always go with ¿Cómo está usted? Right? And we have some other titles here. Señor, señora, señorita would be a younger lady. Always, if you're not sure, always err for señorita. You don't want to call someone who thinks of themselves as a señorita, señora, right? That's that could be problematic, right? Profesor, profesora, etc., etc., right? So basic stuff so far. So let's keep going, right? Academic subjects. These are things that mostly are cognates, meaning they look just like and sound like the English words, right? So make sure that you know how to say the most important ones, the main ones, and especially the ones that you're studying, right? So yo tengo clase de biología. Yo tengo clase de química, right? Yo tengo clase de educación. Yo estudio la informática, computer science. Yo estudio la ingeniería, engineering, right? So you have your categories like ciencias naturales, ciencias sociales, and then the classes under them, right? Humanidades, probably the biggest category here, and matemáticas. Fun fact, el álgebra is an Arabic term, right? And Spanish has a lot of influence from Arabic, right? The Musulmanes, the Muslim empire reigned in Spain for hundreds of years before it was actually Spain. So that's where we get a lot of influence from. There's Latin influence, of course, but it's also a lot of Arabic influence in Spanish, especially toward the south of Spain still to this day, right? So we have that. We have asignaturas, academic subjects. Focus on these as well for the exam. So we're almost finished with the lección preliminar. Talk about your classes, right? So here we go. To talk about your classes, ¿qué clases tienes, right? What classes do you have? Tengo historia, inglés, biología y español. So if you want to practice, ¿qué clases tienes? Yo tengo 3 clases de español y una clase de educación. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué clases tienes, right? Try it out. Don't be afraid to say things out loud. It's very, very, very helpful. Even if you're just talking to the computer like I am right now. It's very important. In all of these chapters, even the lección preliminar has a chapter review at the end where it puts all of the vocab in one spot, right? Which is easy for you to study, and it gives you the most important subtopics here. Since it's the beginning, there's only one. The alphabet, right? Okay, so now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. Vamos a conocernos, capítulo número 1, right? So here we have paso 1, 2, y 3, right? Each with a couple of points, grammar points, but also some vocabulary, right? So make sure you're reviewing the vocabulary, the grammar for paso 1 and paso 2, and the vocabulary for all of these, right? With starting with lección número 1, let's look at the vocabulario for the first one, right? So it's greeting yourself again, right? Again, repetition is key for beginning level Spanish and just language learning in general. So you'll see some of these phrases continue to repeat, like, Buenas tardes, profesora. ¿Cómo está usted? Muy bien. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Alicia Méndez. Hola, ¿qué hay de nuevo? Nada. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué tal? So we have words like buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, ¿qué tal? Very useful. Muy bien, no muy bien, ¿qué hay de nuevo? Nada, todo bien, lo siento, right? So look at this situation. ¿Cómo estás? Obviously the girl's sick. She's saying no muy bien, right? She might follow it with estoy enferma, right? She's not feeling good, right? To introduce someone, te presento a Rashid. Mucho gusto. Nice to meet you. Igualmente. Likewise, right? So practice with some of these greetings and despedidas. When you leave people say goodbye, right? Like ciao. hasta luego, hasta mañana, nos vemos, hablamos más tarde, right? So these are important, good, and easy things to know, mainly just remembering some vocab. So remember, we're going back to the ebook, to the table of contents, right? So we did the primer día de clases. Los números 1 or 0 a 100, right? Números, much like the alphabet, just repetition, using them in context, right? Trying to practice, reviewing the different ways we talk about numbers, right? But just, again, say them over and over again. 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 11 through 15 are a little bit different. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 to 19 a little different. 16, 17, 18, 19. But still patterns, right? 10 and 9, right? 10 and 8. Same thing. Then you get to 20. 20, 21, 22, 23. It repeats. And then 30 is a little bit different in 30 and beyond, right? 31, 32, 33, and then you have 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, y 100, right? So to talk about numbers, right, when you do your teléfono, número de teléfono, it's common in Spanish to group them together, right? So we have this, ¿cuál es tu número de teléfono? Es el 2, 22, 30, y 3 y 50. So we have, look, 2, 22, 33, 50, right? ¿Cuál es tu dirección? We always put the street first. Es calle Colón, número 86, right? 86 Colón Street. Arroba means at, so .com, right? So email address. And believe me, I learned this the hard way. I used to have a job translating for DirecTV. So I would get all of the angry Spanish-speaking customers calling, complaining that their DirecTV wasn't working, and I had no idea what arroba meant. So it was some really tough email address getting sessions for me there. I learned very quickly. ¿Cuál es tu correo electrónico? Es vargas99@yahoo.com, right? Another good thing to note, which will repeat another couple of different ways as we progress, the number uno and numbers that end in uno have different forms depending on the gender of the noun that it follows. So uno becomes un libro instead of uno libro. 21 libros instead of 21 libros. 51 libros. Uno becomes una before a feminine noun, so that just stays una. Una página, 21 páginas, etc. So that's numbers. So moving along on our list, go back to our table of contents. We get to paso uno, gramática B, right? Los pronombres de sujeto y estar. Super important here, guys, understanding subjective pronouns, just like in English. I, you, he, she, it. We, you all, they, right? Same sort of format here that we have, except for the Spanish versions, right? Yo, and there's 2 second persons, tú en usted, él y ella for he, she, or it. Nosotros, nosotras, males or females or mixed groups. Vosotros, vosotras, ustedes, they all mean you all, right? The exception is vosotros is used in Spain. Ustedes is pretty much exclusively used everywhere else. I grew up speaking Spanish in Costa Rica, so I always used ustedes. However, people I work with at other universities are from Spain, so they use vosotros. It's never a matter of can anybody understand anyone else. It's such a small change that everyone understands everyone. Remember, tú is for someone that you know really, really well, or someone your same age. Usted is some older person or professional, etc., right? So now we get to estar, right? Which we'll get to more later, but it's such a fundamental verb that it's important to start early, right? So the verb conjugations of estar, estoy, estás, está, está, estamos, estáis, están, están, right? So first, second, third, singular, first, second, third, plural, right? So estoy is estar means for where are you from, right? So location we use with estar. So ¿dónde está Guinea Ecuatorial? Bueno, está blah, 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 right? Estar is also used to show feelings. Remember, how you feel, where you are. Location and feelings. Use the verb estar. Here's some key adjectives to express how you're feeling. Yo estoy cansado. Mi esposa está cansada. I'm tired. I'm a male. My wife is tired. She's female. Estoy contento. Ella está contenta, right? Estoy emocionado. Ella está emocionada, right? It must change according to the gender, right? Yo estoy muy ocupado, very busy. Ella no está muy ocupada, right? Etc., right? So let's practice with location, right? Mi familia y yo, Quito. What about Marta y Ana, Madrid? Marta y Ana, let's go up here. Marta y Ana, ellas están de Madrid. What about nosotros? San Jose, that's where I've lived for 6 years. I lived around San Jose for a long time. So nosotros estamos, right? Nosotros estamos in San Jose. We're in San Jose. We're not from there. We're just in there now. We're there now. Sergio, Buenos Aires. Sergio está de Buenos Aires. Señorita Ruiz está de Lima. So remember, estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están, right? So that is the verb estar, right? And subject pronoun. So moving right along, we can go to el salón de clase. So more vocabulary, right? A good strategy to practice vocabulary is a couple of ways, right? One is to use them in context. You have these little verbs, right? Like donde está, where is, right? Or you have sed, right? Or have, right? So you have a few verbs that you can practice with. Donde está el reloj? El reloj está en la clase. ¿Dónde está un televisor? Un televisor está en la clase, right? Or en la mesa. So we see these words to practice them in context. Ella tiene un libro, right? Ella tiene un libro, right? Ella es profesora. Aquí hay un diccionario, right? So we can use these in context instead of just trying to remember them in a linear form or through just saying repetition, right? So just kind of use them in context, right? And also look for some things that may help you categorize them as something to help you remember. Like obviously computadora, it sounds like computer, right? Pizarra, I don't know how you could do that one, but pizarra digital, something digital board, etc. Mapa is pretty easy. Calendario, right? Silla, some of these things just keep repeating, right? Remember, I, very useful. Que hay en el salón de clase? There is, there are. Hay un diccionario. Hay una mesa. Hay una profesora. There is, right? There are. Por favor, hay muchos pupitres, a lot of desks, right? We have gracias, por favor, de nada. So we have more vocab here, right? So hay una ventana en la clase. Sí, hay una ventana en la clase. Hay una puerta en la clase. Sí, hay una puerta. ¿Dónde está una tableta? Una tableta está en el pupitre, right? So these are some useful vocab to know, things that you'll be using as you're in college or even in your work environment, right? So there we go. We have the vocabulary for paso dos, right? Paso dos. Now let's get to sustantivos y artículos, right? Sustantivos y artículos, nouns and articles, right? Just like in English, nouns usually have articles like a book and the book. Same thing here, right? So la and los would mean the or the plural, right? Computadora, la computadora, los cuadernos, un or el bolígrafo. Some general rules, and please note there's many exceptions, but generally words that end in o are usually masculine. Un libro, el libro. Words that end in a are usually feminine. Una computadora, la computadora, right? Words that refer to males are masculine, un profesor, un estudiante. Same with females, right? Una profesora, una estudiante, una artista. You notice estudiante and artista do not change according to the article. The article tells you if it's male or female, right? There are some other nouns that don't follow a particular rule, but nouns that end in E could be masculine or feminine. We just have to memorize some. Un pupitre y un reloj, pero una serie y una luz, right? There's many exceptions, right? El día, el mapa, and all words that end in MA are masculine. This has to do with the codification of Spanish from Latin, right? To make plural nouns, we just add S to words that end in O or end in a vowel. Cuadernos, right? If it ends in a consonant, we add ES. Profesores, if it ends in a Z, we change the Z to C and add ES. Luz, luces, right? So remember, sustantivos means nouns. Artículos could either be definite articles like el or la or los or las. Indefinite articles are una, unos, unas, etc. Right? So here's the definite articles. El libro, la mesa. Los libros, las mesas. The difference between singular and plural, right? So la señora Perales está enferma, pero ¿cómo está usted, señora Perales, right? And one good thing to note, which we'll see a bunch of times, but it's really similar to the me llamo es thing that we don't want to do, right? Is there's never an apostrophe in Spanish. So we would never say Juan's libro, right? We say el libro de Juan. Juan is the possessor of the book, right? El libro de Juan. La mesa de la clase. Los libros de los estudiantes, right? So remember that. We're going to get to that again with ser. But also remember there are, very useful. Hay unos bolígrafos y una botella. There are some pens and a bottle. So just like we have specific, definite articles like that one book, right? That the one table, the specific table. This is more generic, right? Un bolígrafo, a pen, a bottle, some markers or pens, right? Some bottles, right? So remember, sustantivos, nouns, right? Los artículos, we have definite articles. Los, indefinite articles, un, una, unos, unas, right? Okay, now I think we're getting to some verbs, right? So here we go. The verb ser, right? Just like estar, there's two to-be verbs in Spanish. We only have one in English, as you know. So just like we practice with estar, which let's review that again. Estar, estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. Same thing with ser, but it's different. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. Ser is used for more specific things, characteristics, traits, etc. So the what and the who, right? So it links parts of a sentence together. ¿Qué es esto? What is this? Es una tableta. It's a tablet. ¿Quién es ese señor? Who is that man? Es el profesor Sanchez, right? So it's identity of things, who and what it is, right? It's innate, just existence, right? Would be ser. Ser is also used to tell where someone is from. Remember, we practiced this at the very beginning. ¿De dónde eres tú? Yo soy de Mexico. So for me, if someone were to ask, ¿de dónde eres tú? I would say, soy de Louisiana. Soy de Baton Rouge, right? En este momento, estoy in Charlottesville, Virginia, though. Right now, I'm in Charlottesville. So remember possession, we never see the apostrophe S, right? So we see, ¿de quién son los cuadernos? Whose books are these, right? Son de Rafael. They're Raphael's books, right? So we would never say Rafael's libros. Son de Rafael. Son los libros de Rafael, right? And again, we keep repeating I because I was really close to ser and estar, right? There are. Hay 25 estudiantes en la clase. So remember, ser, estar, two to be verbs. Estar is more for how you feel where you are. Ser is more for identity, the existence of things, or origin, where you're from, and to show ownership of things, right? Good. Moving right along with vamos a conocernos, tenemos paso tres, right? So por el campus, we have the vocab. You can review the vocab here. So remember, we know our verb estar, which is location. So ¿dónde está la clase de literatura? ¿Dónde está? La clase de literatura está en la Facultad de Humanidades. It's in the Faculty of Humanities building. ¿Dónde está la clase de arte? La clase de arte está en la Facultad de Bellas Artes, right? ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? La biblioteca está al lado de el centro estudiantil, next to the student center. ¿Dónde está la librería? La librería está cerca del centro estudiantil, close to. So, to express location or ubicación, ¿dónde está? Está cerca de, lejos de, al lado de, enfrente de, etc., right? So keep going. So to talk about where you live, right? ¿Dónde vives? Vivo con mi familia. Or vivo en una residencia estudiantil. ¿Cómo es tu cuarto? Remember, it's asking about the nature of things, right? ¿Es muy grande or no es muy grande? ¿Es muy pequeño? ¿Tienes compañero de cuarto? Sí, se llama, remember, me llamo, right? This is se llama Gabriela, right? Sí, etc. Muy bien, so tenemos el vocabulario aquí. Okay, vamos con el verbo tener. I did a great video on this about the multiple uses and the absolute importance of this high-frequency verb tener. It is of exceptional importance. It means to have, but it has other meanings as well. So tener means to have. As always, let's review the conjugations. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tiene. Tenemos, tenéis, tienen, tienen, right? So tener, first of all, means just to possess something. ¿Tienes clase ahora? Do you have class now? Sí, tengo clase ahora. But it has idiomatic uses as well, meaning to be in English, right? Not to have. ¿Cuántos años tiene Alisa? Alisa tiene 20 años. So this literally translates to she has 20 years, but language is not literal. It's expressional, right? So she has 20 years in English means she is 20 years old, right? In this same way, other to be forms are tienes hambre, do you have hunger? Sí, pero tengo mucha hambre, right? I'm very hungry or I'm very thirsty. These are all the ones that are idiomatic that work like this. Tienes mucho miedo de películas de horror? Are you afraid of horror movies? Sí, tengo mucho miedo. Tengo mucha prisa. I'm in a big hurry, right? And the one that shouldn't be on here, that's the most important, is tener que infinitivo, right? We talked about this in the other video, so I won't spend too much time on it. But this is super important. You say, think, read, see this in messages, hear this from your friends multiple times every day. It's to express obligation, right? So, ¿qué tienes que hacer hoy? What do you have to do today? Tengo que leer, tengo que estudiar, tengo que comer, tengo que hacer ejercicios. So I have to study, I have to eat, I have to do exercise, etc., right? So super, super, super important. Tener que with an infinitive. You can get so far knowing, with Spanish, knowing just this one verb structure. You can get out of many communicative exchanges knowing just this one, which we'll keep working on. Tener que infinitivo. Very good. Vamos a conocernos. We're almost finished, guys. You're doing a great job. We have the verb ir. Like tener, this is one of the most highest used, highest frequency verbs out there that's very important. It means go to, movement toward, to go, right? So let's look at the conjugations. Voy, vas, va. Vamos, vais, van, right? So ir a, going toward a destination, right? So that means you're going to see the preposition to, right? A dónde vas? Where are you going to? Voy al gimnasio. I'm going to the gym. Voy a mi cuarto. I'm going to my room, right? So it's movement toward, right? ¿A dónde vas, Cristal? Where are you going, Crystal? Voy a la clase. See, again, we see a, right? With a, when a, the preposition to, combines with el, there's only two contractions in Spanish, al and del. They both contract with el, but one is a and the other one is de, right? Van a el café. We can't say that, so van al café, right? And then vamos, which means let's go or we're going, right? It depends on the context. Vamos a la piscina. Sí, vamos, right? Let's go. Let's go. All right, chicos, let's go. Casi terminamos. We're almost finished. So another great thing, we're on the table of contents here, but if you click the chapter review, you can get all of the vocab together. You can click to hear the audio.
La botella de agua.
Sí, botella de agua, right? And you can hear all of these on your own. But if you scroll all the way down, it will take you to the big things that we just went over, right? So remember, do your best. Listen to the audio multiple times. Make sure that you're reading the questions and you're using the lockdown browser. Make sure to reach out to me if you need some help or if you want to meet or if you want to practice a little Spanish. I'm happy to do that with you guys. Remember, don't email me 1 hour before the test and want some answers because that might not happen. But just email me, contact me, reach out to me, and most of all, good luck on the test. Y hasta luego y ciao, chicos.